My beloved child, listen closely. For what I reveal now is not merely a story, it is a whisper from heaven, wrapped in truth and trembling with urgency. A woman who stands nearer to your life than you realize carries a secret beneath her heartbeat. She has been hiding something that grows with every sunrise. Yes, my child. She is 3 months pregnant. 3 months of silence. 3 months of trembling nights. 3 months of carrying a truth that is becoming too heavy for her soul. But understand this. This is not only about her. It is about the life quietly forming inside her, a life that heaven has already acknowledged, a life whose first flutter has been heard by angels. The moment her child's heartbeat echoed faintly for the first time, heaven paused in holy reverence. Yet the same sound that brings joy above has become a source of terror within her. You may wonder, who is she? Whose child is she carrying? And why does this truth feel so heavy, so overwhelming? Because, my child, her story did not begin in the warm glow of a blessed home. It began in the shadowed stillness of a night filled with choices that should not have been made. A night where emotions overpowered wisdom, where vulnerability became a doorway for regret. What was meant to stay forgotten has now become a living reminder of that moment, a reminder that grows with each passing day. She hides her fear behind calm expressions. She walks through her days pretending nothing is wrong, smiling through the pain. But inside, her soul storms rise and fall without rest. Every laugh she hears in the distance reminds her of what could have been. Every child she sees pierces her with emotions she cannot name, a mix of longing, guilt, and sorrow. She wipes her tears before anyone notices. She whispers to herself again and again, no one can ever know. But truth, my child, truth is a living thing. It grows, it breathes, and it never stays buried forever. For when heaven writes something, no human hand can erase it. The night she confirmed the truth, she sat alone in her room, holding a small test strip between trembling fingers. Her breath came in fragments. Her mind was a storm of confusion and dread. When that second line appeared, her entire world fell silent, not because she felt joy, but because she felt guilt, fear, and a crushing wave of disbelief. She murmured, "Not me, not now, not this." And in that moment, the angels turned their faces away, not in judgment, but in sorrow, because she saw a punishment where heaven had placed a chance for redemption. Sometimes, my child, what is meant to save a soul is mistaken for a burden. Light arriving in the midst of darkness feels like punishment to those who are hurting. Shame clouds the heart so deeply that blessings appear as curses. But I tell you, shame does not come from God. Shame is the shadow cast by guilt, whispered by darkness, fed by fear. 3 days after discovering the truth, she went to a doctor not with excitement, not with maternal hope, but with desperation. Her pulse raced. Her hands were cold as ice. As she sat across from that doctor, she uttered words so soft yet so dreadful that even the angels trembled. "I don't want to keep it." The heavens roared without sound. The spiritual realm froze. A line had been drawn between life and death. But even then, I, your father, whispered into her heart, "Child, do not do this." The voice brushed her soul like a gentle wind, a call to life. She tried to push it away, pretending she imagined it, but it was not imagination. It was me calling her away from the edge. It was Archangel Michael standing beside her, shielding the tiny heartbeat within her with his sword of light. But her fear was louder than her faith. She left the clinic with empty eyes and a trembling spirit. But listen carefully. The reason she is afraid is deeper than what people think. It isn't poverty. It isn't pain. It isn't even the fear of responsibility. It is the fear of truth, the truth that exposes a moment that should have remained in the dark. A moment tied to betrayal, hidden desires, and consequences no one expected. But hear me, my child. Even in the darkest secrets, my light can bring redemption. Even in the heaviest burdens, my grace can lift the load. Even from the darkest soil, I can cause the brightest flowers to bloom. Even from mistakes, I can write a story of redemption. The enemy whispers that her child is a curse. But in heaven's eyes, this child is the turning point of her life, the moment that could lead her back to the light. If this video brought hope to your soul, please consider using the Super Thanks feature to support our message. And you, my child, stand closer to her story than you realize. Your presence in what is about to unfold is no accident. You were placed nearby for a divine purpose, even if you cannot see it yet. For now, understand this. The secret she carries is beginning to break open. Heaven has already begun to move. Her tears have reached the throne, and this journey, her journey, and your journey is only beginning. My beloved child, listen carefully now. What unfolds in this moment is not only her battle. It is the point where heaven and darkness collide over a fragile soul searching for escape. The burden she carries is bending her spirit. Though she tries to appear composed, the cracks are beginning to show. People cannot see her tears, but heaven counts every single one. The days that followed were wrapped in a silence so heavy that even her breathing felt like a confession. She believed she could hide her trembling hands. She thought she could mask her guilt behind forced smiles. But secrets, my child, carry a scent. And the human heart, especially those closest to us, can sense when something is terribly wrong. Her joy slowly faded. Her laughter became hollow. Her steps lost their rhythm. She avoided eye contact, especially with the one person whose life would shatter if the truth were ever revealed, her sister. Because the man responsible for the life growing inside her was her sister's husband. Every day she pretended. Every day she rehearsed lies in her mind. I'm fine. I'm just tired. Nothing is wrong. But lies are heavy and guilt clings like a shadow no matter how brightly someone tries to smile. When she looked into the mirror, she no longer saw her reflection. She saw consequences. She saw betrayal. She saw a woman she never meant to become. Her soul felt torn between regret for what had happened and fear of what would happen once the truth surfaced. Yet within her womb, life continued to grow. Heaven had already decided the heartbeat would not be silenced. The angels watched her not with judgment, but with hope, hoping she would turn toward the light before drowning in her own shame. One night, her strength finally gave out. She collapsed beside her bed, pressing her forehead into her hands as sobs broke free from her chest. Moonlight barely touched the room, but heaven filled the space with unseen compassion. Through trembling lips, she whispered, "God, I don't deserve forgiveness. I destroyed trust. I destroyed love. I destroyed myself." And heaven listened. The atmosphere shifted. A gentle presence filled the room. Though she could not see him, Archangel Michael stood beside her, his wings folded softly, his voice carrying strength and mercy. "Daughter," he said gently, "you have fallen. Yes, but you have not fallen beyond grace." She shook her head violently. "No, I can't be forgiven. I can't. They will hate me. My sister will curse me. No one will ever see me the same again." Michael spoke once more, his voice deep yet comforting. "It is not their forgiveness that sets you free. It is God's. Tell the truth. Let the light do what darkness has tried to hide. For every secret will one day speak." She covered her face, sobbing harder. "I don't have the strength." "But you do," the angel whispered, placing an unseen hand upon her back. "Because heaven is holding you up." The next morning she woke with a strange calm she could hardly explain. She stared at the sunlight filtering through her curtains and whispered a word she had not spoken in months. "Thank you." That simple expression of gratitude opened a small door inside her soul. Heaven rejoiced over a whisper the world would barely notice. Because, my child, whenever a lost soul says thank you instead of why me, the chains begin to break. But peace does not erase consequences. Later that day, her sister came to visit. The house was quiet, filled with the comforting scent of warm tea. Yet beneath the calm surface, spiritual tension pulsed like distant thunder waiting to break. Her sister noticed immediately the pale face, the trembling hands. "You haven't been yourself," she said softly. "Tell me, are you okay?" The pregnant woman's heart pounded painfully. Her throat tightened. For a moment she wanted to lie again, to hide the truth just a little longer, but Michael's whisper echoed through her spirit. "Tell the truth." She slowly placed the teacup down. Her fingers trembled. Tears gathered in her eyes as she whispered, "I need to tell you something." The room seemed to freeze. Her sister leaned forward, concern slowly turning into fear. "What is it?" A long silence stretched across the room. Then the truth broke free. "I'm pregnant." Her sister blinked, stunned. For a brief moment, compassion appeared in her eyes. Then came the words that shattered everything. "It's your husband's child." The teacup slipped from her sister's hand, crashing onto the floor. The sound echoed through the room like the breaking of trust itself. Her sister's face drained of color. A storm exploded inside the house, disbelief, rage, betrayal, heartbreak. The woman collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. I know. I was weak. I was lost. I'm so sorry. My child, heaven and hell both watched that moment. Angels wept for the broken hearts, and demons rejoiced over the pain. Because sin never wounds only one person. It wounds every heart connected to it. Her sister ran from the house, screaming. The woman was left alone. Whispers began. Neighbors talked. Rumors spread like wildfire. People who once hugged her now stepped aside when she passed. She became a symbol of shame. But heaven was not finished with her story. Her loneliness became a classroom. Her tears became her prayers. Her pain became the soil where transformation would grow. Each night she gazed at the stars and whispered, "If you're still there, don't leave me." And a voice responded inside her spirit, "I never left. You left yourself, but I am still here." From that night, her steps changed. She began walking toward the temple again. She stopped hiding her face. Slowly, heaven began to rebuild her from the inside out. My child, this is where her journey of redemption begins. This is where your role begins too, my child. After her secret exploded into the world, heaven did not turn away. It began to move. What looked like the collapse of her life was actually the beginning of a divine rebuilding. And now watch closely, because the light is about to touch what everyone else abandoned. My beloved child, what followed that painful confession was not silence. It was the beginning of a spiritual storm. After the truth tore through their home, after her sister ran with a wounded heart, after the teacup shattered like a symbol of trust collapsed, the entire atmosphere around her shifted. The next days were heavy with loneliness. Her sister left town, unable to bear the pain. The woman remained behind, surrounded by whispers that stung deeper than any words she had ever heard. People pointed, people murmured, people judged without knowing the battle she fought inside her soul. She became a symbol not of life, but of shame. Wherever she walked, the air felt thick with unspoken accusations. Some avoided her. Others watched her with cold eyes. Even those who once called her friend kept their distance. She had become an outcast in her own home, in her own community, in her own skin. But heaven never abandoned her. Even in her lowest moments, angels stood guard around her trembling spirit. Archangel Michael walked with her, unseen yet present, strengthening her each time she felt she could not rise from her bed. One morning, she stood before the mirror again. But this time, instead of seeing guilt alone, she saw exhaustion. She saw a soul drained but not destroyed. She saw a woman who needed mercy, not condemnation. And something inside her whispered, "Get up. Do not hide." So she got dressed and left her home with her head low, but her heart trying to rise. She walked to the temple, the very place she feared people would mock her. She entered quietly, lit a small candle, and sat in a corner where the light from the open window touched her face. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she whispered, "God, I don't ask for people to forgive me. Just help me forgive myself." Her voice cracked, her breath shook, but heaven heard her clearly. As she sat there, a fragile presence filled the temple, the gentle warmth of divine mercy. And then something unexpected happened. At the temple gate, an elderly woman sat, frail and unnoticed. She looked poor, forgotten by the world. The pregnant woman felt a pull toward her. Without thinking, she walked over, reached for the small packet of food she had brought for herself, and handed it to the old woman. The old woman lifted her face. Her eyes shone not with age, but with deep, ancient knowing. Like she could see beyond flesh, beyond sin, beyond sorrow. She smiled slowly and whispered, "The moment you gave, heaven gave back to you. Do not fear, your child is chosen." And then she vanished. Yes, my child vanished. For she was not an ordinary woman. She was an angel in disguise sent only for that message. That single encounter changed everything inside her. Her fear loosened. Her shame softened. When doubt whispered, she remembered those words, "Your child is chosen." From that day forward, she stopped running from her truth. She began walking with more courage. She stopped hiding her face. She faced the world one small step at a time, a step toward freedom, a step toward forgiveness. Months passed. Her belly grew, rounding with the promise of life. Her soul grew too, expanding with a strength she never knew she had. People still spoke behind her back, their whispers like thorns in the wind. But their words no longer shattered her, because she had learned something vital, something you too must learn, my child. No human judgment can rewrite what God has already written. And heaven had written destiny inside her womb, a destiny that would defy the shadows of shame. Then came the night of her labor. Storm winds roared outside, howling like the voices of her past. Lightning flashed across the sky. illuminating the darkness in brief, brilliant bursts. Yet inside her home, there was a sacred stillness, a holy hush that blanketed the room. She clutched her stomach, her breath heavy and ragged, her strength fading with each wave of pain. She cried out, "God, please be with me." And he was. The room filled with a warmth beyond earthly explanation, a divine presence that wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. Each contraction became a prayer, a release of old burdens. Each push felt like her soul expelling pain, guilt, and the shadows that had chained her for so long. And then, a cry filled the air, a newborn's cry, pure and piercing, a cry that heaven had waited months to hear, a cry that broke open the chains around her spirit. She held the baby, trembling, exhausted, overwhelmed, and in the moment his tiny body lay in her arms, something indescribable happened inside her. She felt forgiveness not given by people, not earned through perfection, but gifted by heaven. She whispered to her son, "You saved me. You saved my soul." Her tears fell on his forehead like a baptism of redemption, washing away the stains of the past. My child, remember this. When God forgives, he does not erase the past. He transforms it. He does not discard the wounded. He heals them. He does not shame the fallen. He raises them up. The woman who once hid in darkness now stood in the very place she feared, holding a child heaven had chosen. But this story is not over, not even close. What comes next will change not only her destiny, but the destiny of the child who carries heaven's mark. My beloved child, years passed like chapters turning in a book heaven itself had written. The child she carried, the one she once feared, the one the world mocked, grew beneath the protection of divine light. Every step he took was guided by unseen hands. Every breath he drew was watched over by angels. He was no ordinary child. Heaven had placed purpose in him before he took his first breath. From the moment he spoke his first word, something strange happened. The air would still, as if creation itself paused to listen. When he laughed, the wilting plants outside their home began to bloom again, as though nature recognized the purity within him. And when he prayed, heaven bent closer, leaning in with delight. He grew up unaware of the storm that surrounded his birth. His mother never poured her sorrow into him. She told him only this: "You are my miracle. You came to teach me how to live again." The world, however, was not as kind as his mother. Some called him the child of shame. Some pointed at him in the streets. Some whispered cruel things within earshot. But the boy never responded with anger. His heart was born soft, molded by grace. When insulted, he simply looked at them with calm eyes and said, "One day you will understand." No one understood those words then, but heaven did, because this child, conceived in a moment of weakness, was carrying within him the seed of redemption. When he turned 7, something happened that shook the entire village. It was early morning. He was playing by the river, watching the sunlight dance on the surface like diamonds scattered from heaven. Suddenly, the water began to ripple in the opposite direction of the current. The birds in the trees went silent, as if holding their breath. A warm glow surrounded him, intensifying like a golden aura spilling from heaven. Then he heard a voice, not around him, but within him, clear, loving, and full of purpose. Elia, a name heaven itself had chosen for him. The boy froze. "Who's there?" he whispered, his small hands trembling. From the golden light, a presence stepped forward, majestic, powerful, yet gentle beyond words. It was Archangel Michael, His armor shone like living fire. His wings curved behind him like the first light of dawn stretching across the sky. His gaze held the strength of mountains and the tenderness of mercy. "Elia," he said softly, "you were sent here not as punishment, but as purpose." The boy swallowed hard, fear and wonder mixing inside his chest. I don't understand." Michael knelt down to his level, his great wings folding gracefully behind him. "One day you will," the archangel said. "But hear this now. You carry a light the world desperately needs. You were born to heal what was broken, to lift those who have fallen, and to show that grace is stronger than shame." Tears filled the boy's eyes. "But my mother cries because of me." Michael gently shook his head. "No, child. She cries because her soul remembers heaven. She cries because she is being remade. And you are the answer to her prayer for a new beginning." Then the archangel reached forward and touched the boy's forehead. "When you speak, let your words bring healing. When you walk, let your steps guide the lost. And when you fall, rise again, because heaven has marked you." The light slowly faded, and the river returned to its quiet flow. But the boy's heart would never be the same again. He ran home, breathless. "Mama! Mama! I saw an angel!" She froze. "An angel?" He nodded eagerly. "He told me my name, Elia, and he said I was sent to heal." Her knees gave way as she whispered through tears, "God, you turned my shame into destiny." From that day forward, she refused to hide. She went to the temple and stood before the same people who once whispered about her. "I was broken," she said openly. "I was lost. But God used my failure to bring light into this world." Her humility softened hearts. Those who once judged her now came quietly to speak with her. They brought their hidden wounds, their regrets, their fears. They came seeking comfort. They came seeking forgiveness. They came seeking hope. And she gave them the one thing she had received: grace. Elia grew into a young man with a wisdom far beyond his years. He could sense when someone was hiding grief behind a smile. He could feel when a person was standing at the edge of despair. And whenever he prayed for them, heaven responded in quiet and beautiful ways. A blind man once held Elia's hand and began to see faint shadows and shapes for the first time in years. A grieving widow who cried herself to sleep each night dreamed of her husband smiling peacefully in heaven after Elia whispered a prayer over her. A troubled child found peace simply by sitting beside him. But Elia never claimed the power as his own. "It is the light within me," he always said. "The grace that raised me." My child, this is how heaven works. It turns the rejected into leaders, the wounded into healers, the fallen into living testimonies of divine power. When Elia was grown, he often sat beneath an ancient olive tree. One evening, his mother joined him. Her hair had turned silver, but her eyes carried a deep and peaceful calm. "My son," she said softly, "do you ever wonder why your life began in so much pain?" Elia smiled gently. "Yes, Mama, but now I understand. Light needs darkness in order to be seen." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You became everything I prayed you would be." That night, Archangel Michael returned, not in flames this time, but in a soft and radiant glow. "The circle is complete," he said. "Grace has fulfilled its promise." He turned toward Elia. "You are now a guardian of compassion. The world may forget your name, but heaven never will." Then the archangel disappeared, leaving behind a single golden feather resting in Elia's hands, a reminder that heaven would never leave him. Years later, Elia wrote the story of his life, not a story about miracles, but a story about mercy. He wrote these words: I was born from a mistake, but raised by grace. People rejected me, but God chose me. And if you ever believe you are too broken, remember this: God begins where your shame ends. His story traveled across generations. It reached distant nations. And one day, it found its way into the hands of a young woman drowning in guilt. As she read his words, tears fell down her face. Maybe I can be forgiven too. And in that moment, her life began to change. Do you see now, my child? One woman's sin became another woman's healing. One child's pain became another person's hope. One broken family became a legacy of light. This is the mystery of God to bring redemption out of what the world calls ruin. And now, my child, heaven looks at your life in the same way. Your mistakes do not define you. Your past does not decide your future. Your shame does not own your soul. If this message touches your heart, close your eyes for a moment and whisper, God, forgive me and guide me. Heaven is listening. Archangel Michael is near. And your new beginning starts right now.